It is such an honor to have you on the show, Chani. For anyone who is living under a rock and does not know Chani and her work, Chani is a Los Angeles-based New York Times bestseller, author, and astrologer with a community of over 1 million monthly readers. She has been a counseling astrologer for more than 20 years, guiding people to discover and live out their life's purpose through understanding their birth charts. Her app, Chani, offers users a personalized daily understanding of their birth chart. She has been featured in the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Rolling Stones, The New Yorker, The Atlantic, and on Netflix. Chani, I'm so excited.
Thanks so much for having me, Aliza. I feel like we should have met years ago.
I know, but you are in Los Angeles, right? I'm in New York. Yeah. It's like these two places have nothing to do with each other. There's no overlap.
Yeah, I'm never in New York.
We stay on either coast. We never ever go from one coast to the other. Yeah.
You're wearing black goth makeup.
Yes, exactly. You're wearing white. Like white. It's too opposite. It could have never happened. It would be impossible. Okay. When I got the press release for your app, well, first of all, your app is gorgeous. And we're going to talk about that and the design and why like an astrologer built astrology app like makes such a difference. But one of the things that I noticed is that your launch date is really close to the Great Conjunction, or at least was, I think it was when Jupiter went in, or it was when Saturn went in. But either way, when I saw in the press release that we had this like late December 17th or December 19th launch date, I was 19. Like, 19.
Yeah.
So curious if that came into it.
Of course, everything we do is timed. Every launch that we do, our book launch. So our book launch was during a Mercury Cazimi, and the app is also a Mercury Cazimi. The book launch was a Mercury in Scorpio Cazimi, and the app launch was Mercury in Sag Cazimi. But really, what we were looking at charts and we were doing that stuff, and then we were like, what did Chris and Lisa say for the year? And then we listened to Chris Brennan and Lisa Shine do this incredible like deep dive into like what are the best charts for the year. And you know, when you're that close to a project, it's sometimes hard to like just go off your own astrology. And so we listened to their podcast for that December 19th date when Jupiter had just ingressed into Aquarius and was about to, the Great Conjunction was on the 21st, right? Yeah. So we're getting the application of Jupiter to Saturn, and we picked that day because it was the Cazimi, which for an app or for anything about communication, you want Mercury in a really good situation. And that's the only moment that Mercury's in a good situation, because it's in its detriment. And it's also like, if it's not in the Cazimi, it's under the beams and it's all burnt up. So it felt like that was the moment to launch something. And they did this podcast on it, and their explanation of the chart was so gorgeous. And so I felt like it was really sweet to have also them as a part of why we launched it at that time, because I love their work so much. And yeah, we wanted to be part of the Great Conjunction, and we're in it to win it. We're here for the long term. It's a Saturn ruled chart, but she is a Sagittarius. And the moon's in Pisces. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, is it a Capricorn rising or a Aquarius rising?
Aquarius. Yeah. Cool, so we have Jupiter on the, Jupiter, Saturn on the ascendant.
I am also a Saturn ruled. I'm a Capricorn rising with the Pisces moon.
Yeah.
And I'm a Leo. So I no wonder fiery. I love your chart. The chart of the app, which is for any listeners who have not downloaded it yet. I am so stunned by the design. It is so beautiful. I love all of the collage art and the text and the aesthetic of it. It is so thoughtful, and it makes for such a warm and hospitable and welcoming experience. And even though I am, a goth bitch through and through, obviously, there's definitely, especially when you're talking about astrology and these sort of divination practices, people can get really scared. It can be really freaky. So sometimes layering that gothy aesthetic with really talking about like, hey, is this going to be a shitty year, can be a lot. So I really appreciate the fact that the approach is so inviting. And I'm curious as to, you know, did the design and the look and feel of the Chani app sort of create itself? Was it something that you knew going into it? Was it something very design forward?
Yeah, you know, our lead designer, Ramisha Sator, came on like in December of 2020. And we were also working with another designer before that did the collages, but I'd been doing collages for my horoscopes for so long. I'm not good at it. I have really like rudimentary skills. And so design has always been a big part of the business, I think, even before the app. And we really wanted, you know, Ramisha has this like quirky, like funny, like odd sensibility to her design. So like the tarot cards and a lot of the other art that's on the app. And we just found it so playful and so sweet in that way that, yeah, we're going to talk about, you know, like this day is going to be really hard. This week's going to be really intense or what have you. And so we like, I think, to create universes that are whimsical, playful, entertaining, and pretty.
Yeah, we're
very femme heavy.
One of the other things that I was really interested in is the fact that you guys self-funded it.
Yes.
Before we started recording, I was sharing that I had an astrology dating app called Align from 2013.
Great name.
Thank you. Great concept, honestly.
Great concept.
It's still get asked about it all the time because in a perfect world, there would be a really thoughtful astrology dating app. But in 2013, especially, I mean, I like to remind people it was
a million years ago.
It was the Obama era. It was a different time. It was like it was a different universe. Like there are so many things that have happened between 2013 and now that have shifted the way that we understand. So ahead of the time, but
so ahead of your time,
but also so traumatized from
traumatizing.
So traumatizing to be ahead of your time because and granted, I was really young. I was like 24, but I would walk in and I thought that the way to do this was going to be, you know, get the venture funding, go through the process. And I would walk into these rooms with my amazing Leo business partner. And we would just be basically either people would try to fuck us, would try to scrutinize us, but either way wouldn't invest. Either that they were harassing us or that they were shaming us for. I got this one email that was saying, usually I wish co-founders the best of luck, but because you're talking about astrology, I think that you are, you know, you are bringing us back into the dark ages. I hope we fail.
About how the hate, like it's so weird. It's so like reptilian, the kind of hatred that people have. I think especially for women and femme astrologers, it like the vitriol, you're just like, y'all can exist and we can exist. And like, there's like the kind of hatred that you get sometimes, especially from men, especially from older men, is just wild. But I'm so sorry that was your experience.
Yeah, it was so my experience, but it was also so the experience of so many people. And it was an eye-opening and very shell-shocking experience because and every time, you know, I feel very protected and very sort of safely nestled in an astrology community now. But often, you know, I forget how much venom there is towards astrologers. You know, because you get it not just from like the Christians and the right wing, you also get it from the fedoras and from the mansplainers and from the people who are like the science logic minded, like everything needs to, you know, thinking that this is the same as Earth is flat theory, you know?
Yeah, as if astrology isn't the most like technical and like kind of really like a logically put together system. Like you don't have to believe in it, but there's really like a very deep logic to it and very, very, very strict rules that you have, you know, it's like, it's not some free for all, which, and none of those people have ever even spent 5 minutes investigating what astrology is. So anyways, I'm so sorry for the ways in which you had to experience that. And especially as a 24-year-old, like in 2013, again, it was a pre-Me Too, like pre all of that, like having to weather that as a young woman is just like so intense. Your Capricorn rising really
Yeah, it's
came
really
through, like tough.
Yeah, it was
boundaried.
very intense, but I was curious as to the decision, because obviously building an app is a really expensive endeavor. No doubt about it. The technology in and of itself, and the upkeep of that technology, the maintenance of the platform, the users.
Wow.
It's a lot. So how was when you started this process, and however long you were iterating this for, did you always imagine self-funding this as opposed to going through a traditional investment route?
Yeah. So my wife and I are like massive control freaks.
You're like, listen, I got to reason with you. This might not have been the best decision.
I'll say this, we both have Saturn in the first house. So we're both like, but the last thing we want to do is give up our power to a bunch of VC folks. Honestly, that's really it. Like, we would rather starve than have to like succeed anything like that. So it's really like, we also feel really strongly in terms of business that if we can't do it, we're not ready to do it. Like, if we can't fund it, it's not ready to be done. And that's obviously like very antithetical to the world at this point. It's just really our personal thing. But we're like, if this business works, then, you know, we grew the business for years. I was growing it for years and years, and then we got together and she really helped us take it to another level. And then it's like that the business itself and the community and the work and my relationships with people built the thing that would then build the app to give back to everyone who's been with us for so long and then some. So it feels like it's got to be organic for us, or it doesn't work for who we are, because we really get a thrill out of having that control, because from that control, we get to build the company of our dreams. We get to have we get to pay people in the way that we want to pay them. We get to have all the benefits that we want to have. We get to like also we get to offer our vision for work culture that is unfortunately really disruptive to how a lot of companies operate. And that's essential to us. Like, that's what gets us up in the morning. Like, what can we do? How can we create the world that we want to create? And it's through, we really strongly believe that people need to be compensated fairly and have a work environment that supports them and have the amenities that they need to feel like they can really live out their potential in this company. And when you feel like you've lived that out and you want to go somewhere else, then like, all the blessings. And we hope that you find, if it's not here that you want to be for a long period of time, we hope that your work here helps you to like launch into something else. And our main thing and theme, I think, of like my book and the app and everything is like, how do you live your purpose? And so our purpose, Chani and I's purpose, is really to create conditions, I think, where people feel like they can thrive. And we don't ever want to give that up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that that's a really interesting loop.
You have to risk everything.
Right.
So we had to,
I mean, and I guess that's the chart. That's the story of one's living their chart, is also risking everything to be, that radically honest and true to the mission of the chart.
Creative. Yeah. And I think that for me, like, being in accordance with my creative energy means that I have to always be pushing and risking something.
So how do you continue to stay inspired through horoscope writing in particular? And I'm not sure how much of the horoscope writing, you are facilitating now. I know that your business is also hiring astrologers. I think you've got a lot of recommendation letters from me from amazing astrologers, and because there are so many amazing ones. There are so many great astrologers. So I'm not sure how hands-on you are in that capacity, but at least for a very long time you were. And I'm curious as to how you continue to find your wells of inspiration, and where does that spark and that poetry come from for you?
Yeah, so we do have, now we have like a horoscope for every single planet under the current sky. So if you want to know like what Mercury and Virgo is doing for you. So there's literally 10 different horoscopes for you at any given time. Well, actually more, because there's Chiron now, and we'll be releasing more things soon. So there's 11, and then there's your weekly horoscope. So I don't write those current sky horoscopes. So we've got Aliza Robertson is our director of content, and she kind of oversees who writes what. And then we've got like Thea Anderson is also she's an astrologer here. She does a lot of different things for the company, but she also writes the horoscopes. We've got Stephanie Warner just joined the team, and she's starting to write. And then we have other astrologers that we contract out. And so I don't write a lot of that stuff anymore. And it's any horoscope writer. How many horoscopes do you write a month? Like how many different columns?
I've ghostwritten more horoscopes than people know. And I write the monthly horoscopes for Cosmo, but when Quibi was on, I actually wrote all of the daily horoscopes, which were 3-part horoscopes for every day for the entire duration of that show, including all of the episodes that were never released because the show just exploded on itself.
That is like, how do you write after that?
Well, this is literally why I'm asking you, Chani.
I mean, I will say that
I am mining for inspiration. Pardon me.
No, I think I was like, at the beginning of the year, I was writing weeklies again, which I hadn't done in a while. And it took its toll on me because I also do weekly reading, so recording. So I do a podcast every week on the astrology, and then I do 12 readings, and then I do meditation. Is that noise? Can you hear it? No, okay, good. So I do a ton of recording. So I'm doing like verbal horoscopes every week, for every single everybody. So because that has taken precedence, I've momentarily like stepped back a little bit from the weekly horoscopes. I edit everything. So I read everything. I rewrite the stuff that I want rewritten. So I'm in a moment, you're catching me in a moment for the first time in 10 years where I'm not locked into a very intense writing cycle. And I find it's really hard to do both the audio and the written stuff at the same time. But I'll tell you, it's only been like a month where I haven't been writing every single week. And I don't quite know what to do with my writer is like, I need to write. So I've also got some really big projects going on behind the scenes that I need to get to, that need me. So I don't know, Aliza, how you do this, but it's like, there's, the writing horoscopes I can't even imagine daily, honestly. I think I would lose my mind. But writing weekly horoscopes, it's so like chop wood, carry water, wash the car, wax on, wax off. Like it's so like nitty gritty. I find it like the bartending of spiritual work. It's like, this is just like, I'm doing it for my tip for the night, and then I got to do it all again tomorrow. It's not like I don't have a 401k. It's not something like, it's so it expires. Like you pour your heart and soul into something that's only going to last for 7 days. So I think at times you need a little bit of a break to like kind of recalibrate. And then also in a very like sick way, I miss it. And I've only taken a break for like a couple weeks. So I think it's just like, you have to be that deranged to want to like do something that is going to require that much of your focus and concentration and skill, and then it be totally like thrown away in the next couple days.
Yeah, it's so ephemeral and it's so intense. And the other catch-22 about it is that it's how most people, it's the entry point for most people for astrology.
Right.
So you can't really skip over it, because I could the poetry of a birth chart and the planets and the aspects, like I could sort of languish in that all day and always be pulling something else out and looking at something, because you could layer in the mythology, and then you see something, and then there's a transit, and then it's a progression, and they're like, oh my goodness, like this is unfolding for me. Whereas horoscopes feel very much sort of like, all right, like let's make something meaningful here. And it requires that sort of that tenacity, but you can't skip over that, because for most people, they're not going to get to the beautiful poetry of the birth chart before the horoscope.
It's the gateway drug.
It's the gateway. And it's a very tedious gateway for the creators of it.
Yes. And it also, like, you know, when you see people get mad at astrologers for not being on time with their horoscope, or for like the kinds of expectations that are put on people that write, astrologers that write horoscopes, is like, y'all, this is free information. And this person is like scraping the bottom of the barrel just to get you something in whatever, you know, time they're trying to get it to you in. And it's grunt work, but it's good. And it's, as an astrologer, I think it teaches you so much about the planets, because you're just watching them so closely. And I think it is an important kind of initiation. And I love being in it with people. I don't know about you, but I love being in that like minutia with people. It's like, okay, yeah, let's do it this week. Let's do it this week. Even though it's like very relentless.
Well, the astrology of the past couple of years has been so frighteningly literal that it's it's been interesting, because I think it's set the bar so high for like, oh, like, you know, we're going to have a Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and then we're going to have a pandemic. Like, how on the nose.
How poetic.
Yeah, how poetic. But it's wild, because it, you know, it doesn't always work out so literally. But now I think that for all of the people who have come into astrology since the beginning of 2020, they are sort of expecting this one-to-one. And, you know, we're not always dealing with, you know, once in a lifetime transits like that.
Thank God.
Thank God. Yeah.
And, you know, 2022 it has the Jupiter Neptune moment that hasn't happened in a really, really long time. But that's just a moment, and it doesn't like, it's not like Jupiter retrogrades overnight.
Yeah.
It's very, you know, it's just going to be like a kind of signature for that month. And there's not major architecture in 2022. I feel like the Saturn Uranus is still very present especially through a couple of months. It's like almost square, but not quite. They kind of like, but yeah, it's definitely not the same.
How are you feeling about the US Pluto return?
Oh yeah, there's that.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, we're in it. Like, this is it. Yeah. And so the thing with like Pluto is it's so like slow and long lasting, and there's such a need for this country to grieve the horror that it has been built on, that the more we resist that, the further away from any kind of like transformation that Pluto could offer us we are. And so I do feel with the South Node in Scorpio next year and South Node eclipses in Scorpio, we're being invited to grieve something, and then we can add the Pluto return.
Totally. And I think that even the Jupiter and Neptune, you know, I think that even that healing with so much Pisces influence, and also, you know, escapism, of course, is the other side of it. But I do think that it invites us to go really deep.
Well, and then there's the Venus stationing on Pluto at the end of this year, the beginning of next year.
Right. And at that 22-degree Capricorn.
Yes. Right. So it's like for America, right? America's not the whole world, but for us, it's like, hey, let's just emphasize this thing here.
Yeah. Totally. When I was looking at last year, when I was looking at the 2021 transits, and it was like, you know, what we obviously Jupiter goes into Pisces, yay, goes back into Aquarius, okay. And then it's like, all right, then it goes back, like it's okay. And then I saw Venus retrograde like on like December 29th or something at that exact point. And I was like, oh, okay, we're still here. We're still here, still same narrative.
Cute.
So
Chani, go deeper.
Still deeper. Come a little deeper. Come on, the water's fine, but it's like it's not
filled with sharks. It's
okay. It is murky ass water, but like somebody has to filter it. You know, gotta get filtered. We got to start to, you know, really understand what is going on and all of the sediments that have built up in, and this is also, of course, you know, with Taurus and Uranus, it's going to be so interesting on an ecological level.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like, it's time to face that grief that our planet is at this point. Like, we can have all these big dreams and hopes and successes, but like, y'all, the earth is like, no, this totally, you've gone way over. And so I do feel like that, and the energy grid stuff and like all the stuff that's happened with the Saturn Uranus square. Then those eclipses kind of highlight the Uranus part of it, and Saturn's still very close to squaring, I think, in 1 or 2 of the eclipses. So it does feel like, hey,
yeah, and then
good to get in touch with the feeling, how this makes you feel.
Exactly, because then come Uranus going into Gemini and Pluto going into Aquarius in a few years from now, we're going to be able to apply all of that. But right now we have to like be roll up the sleeves, you know, get in the weeds of this, I think.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. I really do.
That sounds good.
What a time to be an astrologer. What a wild time.
Human. Yeah. You're so good at this.
You are.
You're such a great interviewer.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
You are. Like, you're so good at this. I could talk to you for hours.
Well, stop. Don't even tempt me. I'm going to ask you the 2 questions we ask every guest on the show. And the first is, what do you believe in? Now, I want you to know that your answer to this does not have to be anything profound. If you were like, I believe in chicken sandwiches with a side of macaroni, like I would co-sign.
Yes. Well, I definitely believe in the power of Advil.
Advil works.
For me. I don't know about you, but sometimes mixing it with a little Tylenol can also be good. I'm not above painkillers. I do experience quite a bit of like, I have migraine-y stuff. So there's that. What do I believe in? I believe that I don't really how to phrase this. I believe in the process. I believe that when I can relax and trust the process of a reading, of my life, of a difficult situation, of a great situation, it doesn't matter. Sometimes opportunity and abundance reads the same in my body as catastrophe. Like, so my like lesson is always like, can you relax and trust yourself and this? And I'm always taught the ways in which it's really painful when I don't trust, and that it's also something to develop, and it takes me a long time, but the more I grow and open up and the more abundance comes in, the more I'm like, oh wow, I've really got to ground and be in relationship with my intuition. And that's really like, that's always where I get in the place, but I get in the zone where I can move through my anxiety, hold that, and then find my way into relationship with my intuition. Because you know, it's like you spend so long building your skills, and then you got to like kind of let it all go and trust that it'll be there in the way that you need it to be. And that's always the work for me.
That's that second 8th house shit.
Yeah.
And that's the skills, and then it's the dispersing of the skills, the letting the skills go. As an 8th house stellium, 2nd house moon, really could not relate more to that concept.
So you come by your goth really honestly.
It's all I know. Sun conjunct South Node, 0-degree orb.
Oh my God.
8th house.
Wow.
Pluto midheaven. What could I do?
Wow.
It's a full-time job.
So you must talk about this a lot, but what that Sun South Node, do you get a lot of people in your readings that have that? I
get a lot of eclipse babies, for sure. Yeah. I get a lot of eclipse babies. I don't know, you know, the sun at the 0-degree orb is not that common. So whenever I have the opportunity to speak with an evolutionary astrologer, I'm always like, hey, you want to chat?
You're like, let me show you something.
Yeah, because it's that I had Stephen Forrest on the show, and he so kindly was like, may I? And I was like, oh, please. And he was like, you've died before. And I was like, great, good to know. And it's true. I mean, it's many in this lifetime too. It feels like a constant metamorphosis, I really resonated with what you said about trusting, you know, the process. And if you can't do something the right way, it's not time to do it. I feel like that is the lesson of my South Node Sun Leo conjunction. Yeah. Anything that I do out of ego literally bites me in the ass.
Oh my God.
It is, I cannot, even if I'm like, just a little Leo, it's immediately, it's like destroyed, catastrophe, disaster. So I've had to become really good at recognizing like where the ego comes in, because that is where I have to find the humility.
Do you talk to dead people?
No, I don't really talk to dead people. I talk to people who are transitioning though. I can tell when someone's on one side or the other.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting, like if someone's in a difficult situation, I can usually try to get them in the astral and say, you know, you make the choice. It's your call, whether you want to stay here or go. But we'd love for you to stay if it's a possibility.
Wow. Are you born before the eclipse or after or during it?
I am born after.
After.
Yes. I have my Pisces moon is at 19.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. So it was, I think, but the sun was at 25. So it was like a day. Yeah, exactly. Okay. A day and a half after.
Wow.
Question number 2. And this is actually this is very per this, which is, how does magic show up in your life?
What a great question. Magic shows up in my life when I get out of the way.
Great answer. Great answer.
Like I'm the asshole that stops everything. Otherwise, magic is just afoot. It's just, I think it's just a natural state of being. I think we're all psychic. I think we're all, you know, miracles are normal. They are always happening. It's like, can I be a gracious enough human to be present to them? And I've always, and this is, you know, been said a million times, but like the people in my life that have, the teachers in my life that have been really centered in gratitude are the ones who know how to see the miracles and the magic. And they're always such a great teacher for me, because I have like Sun Saturn stuff. So I'm so much more likely to be like, oh, that sucks, this is horrible. And like, you know, see a lot of the negative side of life and to be closed off to things. So being in gratitude, when I can get myself there, it's an amazing experience. And it's one that I think we owe ourselves in a lot of ways too, to work at getting there, because I think that's where the solutions are. I think to our world's greatest problems, the solutions are in those moments when we can be open to creative intelligence and in gratitude of it. I'm rambling now.
No, that makes, I mean, that really is magic. That's the threshold, right? It's the between stuff, because it couldn't be in tangible form. It has to be in the in-betweens. That has to be where magic is, which sometimes means between a rock and a hard place. It sometimes means when you're wedged in a really shitty situation, but that still the consciousness of the shitty situation. This is from, you know, one Saturn ruled bitch to another with Saturn influence here. Like it's, that's really where you're like, oh shit, I'm aware of the fact that this is shitty, but that awareness is really a spark.
And life is not supposed to be easy.
Right. That is correct.
Like
that is correct.
When I can get out of the like, why is this? It's like, Chani, what do you think? Like, this is not supposed to be like a free ride. Like life's got challenges. And when I can just get myself into that place, it makes all the difference.
Yeah. And that's really the connective tissue of all of us, right? I mean, this is what humans have been musing on for thousands of years, is like trying to reconcile how hard it is. So it's really about reconciling that life is hard, period. And what are you going to do with that? You know,
I think that's your book, your next book.
Thank you. We're going to talk about rights after this. Stay on the line
period.
for
what are you
the
gonna do
legal
about
conversation. Okay, let me close us off with the tarot pull. So my deck does best when there's a question, a specific question. The general stuff, it's like, I won't know how to interpret it. You won't. It's going to make us both feel weird. So as you're pulling your question,
I'm down to feel weird with you.
Let's feel weird. We can feel weird for sure.
We can do that.
We can, okay, if you want to feel weird. Pile 1.
Wait, do I tell you my question? Or
yes, but first tell me a pile between 1, 2, and 3.
3.
Beautiful. Perfect pile.
Okay, thank you. I love validation.
And now what is the question?
Okay, question is, how can I help myself relax when abundance comes into my life?
Okay, I think that I can accept that question exactly as you phrased it. I think that is a perfect question. How can Chani accept abundance? Relax to accept abundance. Relax and accept abundance?
How can I relax when abundance comes into my life? How can I help myself relax when abundance comes into my life?
How can Chani relax when abundance comes into her life? Oh, here it is. It's the Chariot, baby.
Oh my God.
There it is. We love to see it. I mean, this is, I mean, what I really love about this, in addition to, you know, it's obviously a Cancer card. There's obviously a lot of layers of protection, but it's that celestial protection, you know, it's that enclosure. It's that, you know, you don't need to drop this, right? Like this really, you can't, there is no such thing as the Chariot without the Chariot.
Right.
There has to be a Chariot. You have to have some shell that says things are still operating and functioning. You have to be able to trust that system. But once you've created a system that you can trust and that is established, that inside the Chariot is where we could get a little funky, you know, like this is where we can relax, take a little nap, draw the curtains back, do what you need to do. So maybe you're not going to do it and everyone's going to know. Maybe it's going to be a private peace, you know, private tranquility, private relaxation, where the Chariots can still see it's still moving in the direction it needs to move. But you on the inside are like, you know what, the system is going. So I can close these curtains, these beautiful celestial curtains, and I can just find a little bit of pause and find a little bit of breath and find that moment for myself, because I've made this fucking Chariot.
Yeah. I love that.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So where can our listeners find you, find your work, find the app? Spoiler alert, I think it's on the App Store. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely on the App Store. Just type in CHANI and then you'll find us. My website is Chani Nicholas, NICHOLAS.com, and I'm on the Instagram and on the Twitter. I've not yet ventured into TikTok. Have you?
I feel a little old. Nothing makes you feel Capricorn rising like TikTok. Honestly.
Oh my God,
I'm doing what I can, but I feel like everything I do is always like this. Oh, it's in drafts now. Like, how did it get over there? Like, it's humiliating.
Oh my God. That's what the youth are here for, just to humiliate us.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been scared of teenagers, to be perfectly honest. Even as a teenager, I found them very terrifying.
Yes, I was always more apt to hang out with adults.
Yeah. So anything that's too heavy youth, I'm like, whoo, like, whoa, what are you guys doing?
I love it. Yeah, so you can find me there, and the app is free to download, and then there's a paid subscription, but you can get a ton of free content if you download it. There's all those 11 horoscopes that are always there for you. There's a weekly podcast. There's like the, emoji temperature of the astrology of that day. And I think other stuff. Wow.
Great notifications.
Great notifications. Thank you.
Yes. Great notification. Reminders of when the moon moves into a new sign. Always need to know Chani, this has been so lovely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Listen, we're going to hang out.
I can't wait.
IRL.
I can't wait.